Hey everyone, Rachel Parlett here from the Classroom Nook. Welcome to Workshop Wednesday. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Super excited to work with you again tonight. I've got some really great things planned. If you are just jumping in for the first time with Workshop Wednesday, make sure you go back and check out the past 2 weeks. We talked, the first week we talked about using Google Calendar in your class, in your teacher life rather, to organize everything from lesson planning to teacher parent conferences to student conferences to anything related to teaching. And then last week we talked about how to use student blogging in your classroom. So we've got a lot of really great things going on with with using Google tools in the classroom. That's what we're all talking about in this winter series, I guess, all about using all about using Google tools. So let me just go ahead and get my stuff set up here because I've got lots of tabs open because we have a lot to cover tonight. So let me go ahead and pull us up. And then I also want to check and make sure we're good to go on our Facebook page, on my Facebook page rather, that we are live and well. All right, perfect. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive right in. All right, so we are talking again all about Google Slides. If you are kind of starting with Google Classroom and using those Google apps in your classroom, this is going to be a great starting point for you because I'm just going to give you the basics tonight. And I also want to say up front too, I am not a Google Classroom expert. I've never, when I was teaching, we did not have Google Classroom available to us. It wasn't even on my radar at that point. So I've really learned a lot just in the last few months as I have started changing over a lot of my resources to be Google Classroom compatible, because a lot of you out there were saying that you wanted some of my resources also available in Google Classroom, because I know a lot of you are trying to do the paperless classroom. So I'm trying to do that for you, and I've learned a lot along the way. So I'm going to share with you what I know, and please, if you have something that you know, please share it as we go through it so that we can kind of learn from each other. So I'm not claiming to be the expert. I'm just sharing with you what I know. And as I learn more, I'll bring that to you as well. So let's go ahead and get started. So again, if you find this video that we're going to do valuable, please share it with your teacher friends. If you have other teacher friends who are getting started with Google Classroom and want to use Google Slides, share this video and let them know so that they can kind of learn alongside with you. So you can do that by clicking on the share button that's right below the video that you're watching and share it to your Facebook page. And that would be awesome just to help me get the word out, to help teachers kind of get started, get their feet wet with Google Classroom. Okay, so if you are bare bones, you have no really understanding of Google Classroom, I'm just going to give you a quick little foundation, and then we'll kind of get into a Google Slides so that you can kind of see how you would build a Google Slide to use within your classroom if you are using Google Classroom. I'm going to say Google Slides and Google Classroom. I'm going to mix them up. So hopefully you can follow me there. All right, so essentially what you're doing with Google Slides is you are, at the very basic level, you can take worksheets that you already have done that you would normally print out to give to your students, and you can put them on a Google slide so that it's digital and you don't have to print it out. And students can type into Google Slides. So just like they would write in their answers on a piece of paper, they could type in their answers on a Google Slides. Now that's just one way of using Google Slide. I'm going to show you a few ways that I've started to use them and incorporate them into my teaching resources that I provide on Teachers Pay Teachers. But that's just at the very basic level. You could take a worksheet that you normally would do maybe in PowerPoint. I do all my worksheets and activity sheets in PowerPoint. That's kind of a lesson for a whole nother day, but essentially in PowerPoint, you are able to kind of insert pictures and move them around as you want, or text boxes to move around. Whereas if you're still using, like, say, Microsoft Word for creating teacher activities or student activities, it's kind of difficult to rearrange the words and the pictures and whatnot. So I know a lot of you are already using things like PowerPoint. I think, what is Mac Keynote, things like that, to create your teacher resources. You would do it in PowerPoint and then kind of transfer into Google Slides. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit how that's done in a bit. But essentially at the top there of the screen, you see what this is for my Explorer unit, what a page would look like if you printed it off. So it's in black and white. That's the paper version. If you were to take that same page and make it into a Google slide, you could, instead of having it be in color, you could have it, or be in black and white, you could have it be in color. And you can see that I've put that there at the bottom, or on the bottom picture there, you can see that it's in color and now it's in a Google slide. So I'm going to show you how you can insert that into a Google slide to make it a worksheet. So at the basic level, that's what you're doing. Okay, so getting started, just like any of the activity or the other tools that I've talked about in the previous 2 weeks, you really need just very few things to get started. The first thing, you're going to need your Google account, Gmail account. Again, many students already have Gmail accounts because schools are starting to implement Google Classroom more and more. So you already probably have that set up. If not, of course, it's a free thing that you can do with your students and for yourself for that matter. And then regular access to digital devices, Chromebooks, iPads, tablets, desktop computers, laptops, all those things, that's basically all you need to get started. So if you have the Google account and you have access, and it doesn't even have to be like a 1-to-1 ratio, it could be maybe you have once a week, you have access to a computer lab in your school or a mobile cart that comes to your classroom. That will make enough of a difference that you can use this type of teaching in your classroom. So it doesn't have to be all the time, but I know a lot of you are trying to do that whole paperless classroom and you do have that 1-to-1 access, then you're definitely going to want to start using this with your students. Okay, so today you're going to learn where to find Google Slides. I know that's really basic, but I'm sure there are some people that maybe don't know where to find or get access to Google Slides, and I'm going to show you that. I'm going to show you some of the things that you can use Google Slides for with your students. I'm going to show you some of the things that I've created, and hopefully it'll spark some ideas and inspiration of things that you can do with your students and create. And then I'm going to show you how you can take your existing worksheets, activities, and turn them into digital activities using Google Slides. And then we're going to talk about how you can create new things. It's basically the same thing, but if you want to start from scratch and you want to create something with the intention of making it for Google Slides or Google Classroom compatible, we're going to talk about that as well. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and transition you over to my screen. So now you should be able to see my computer screen as well as me down at the corner. All right, so let me get it up for myself here. Okay. All right. Oops, do we pause? Give me a thumbs up if we are still good. It looks like my computer paused. Let me just double check because I don't want to talk to nobody if I'm not live here. Okay, it looks like I'm still live. Fingers crossed. I'm going to keep going with it. Maybe I just need to refresh my phone. Okay. Sorry, guys. I don't want to keep going if we are not live. Looked like my computer cut out for a quick second. If you can hear me, please give me a thumbs up or a comment that we are still good to go. All right. I think we're still good to go. I'm going to keep going. At least I see you there. Are you hearing me okay, hopefully? Sorry, guys. Okay. I'm still seeing that we're live. Okay, I'm going to keep going. Sorry about that. Okay. So you should be seeing my computer screen right now and me in the corner. And so again, we're going to first talk about where you can find Google Slides. Okay, good. I got a thumbs up. We're good to go. Thank you. So if you go to if you're signed into Google Chrome and you do want to make sure you're signed in because that'll give you access to your files. If you go up to that 9 square up in the corner and you click on it, you'll see Google Drive there. And if you can click on that, because Google Slides is held within Google Drive. And then these are all just my own files that I have here. But if you have not done anything in Google Slide or Google Drive in general, this will probably just be a blank space for you. Don't worry about that. These are just all my files. So if you go over to New, and down here you see Google Slides. You can either just click right on it, or if you want a blank presentation, go ahead and click on that blank presentation, and it'll bring it up. So a couple things to notice here right away. It'll bring up for you on the side here, on the right-hand side, it'll bring up for you some suggested themes. Just like if you were working in PowerPoint, there are already done for you themes ready to go. And you can see here, if I click on them, it'll change the slide, and every slide in my presentation will be that way. So I don't typically use any of these because I usually customize everything for whatever lesson I'm teaching. But if for some reason you wanted a ready to go theme, you could click on that and it'll go ahead and do that for you. But I'm going to go up here and go back to the blank one. And then it goes back to the blank. And then the first thing I always do when I open up a Google Slides, if I'm going to create something from scratch here, actually even if I don't, if I'm going to be importing pictures and slides, I just go ahead and I get rid of those boxes that are already added in for me because I don't need those in. I'm not going to use them at all. Okay, and then you want to give your Google Slides presentation a name. So I'm just going to call this test presentation so I know that this is what we did today together. If I can spell presentation. Present. Okay. All right, so we have the first slide is there for you. Now, for me, because most of your resources, if you are kind of converting a paper copy and you're trying to make it into Google Slides, most of your paper copies are in the 8.5 by 11 dimensions, whether that's portrait or landscape. So, and then any resources that I create, I always put them in 8.5 by 11. So what I go right off the bat, if you go to File and you go down to Page Setup, you can click on Custom. So I clicked on this little downward arrow where it said widescreen. That's what it is default set at. And if I click on Custom, I can go ahead and change it here and make it, if I want it the landscape, I'm going to do the 11 by 8.5. If I want it portrait, I'm going to do 8.5 by 11. And then you just press OK, and it'll go ahead and shape that for you, give you the new dimensions. And I'm going to go ahead and click out a theme so I have some more working space here because I'm not going to choose a theme there. Okay, so we know, so you're going to create your title, you're going to change the page size to how you want it, and then I'm just going to give you a quick rundown of the toolbar that you see here so that you kind of know some of the things that you might be using. There's a lot here, and you may not use them all, especially if you're just getting started. You're probably going to be at the basic level, which is great. Okay, so right here, if this plus sign, if you want to add a slide, that's going to go ahead and add that for you. With each slide you add, it is going to add those text boxes back in, so I just go ahead and delete it and get it out of the way. You got your undo and redo button just like normal, zoom in, zoom out. The text box, if you want to add a text box, you simply click on that and then you can draw a text box on your slide somewhere. If you want to insert an image, whether it be from like a file that you've saved onto your computer, or if you want to use a picture from the internet where it says search the web, that's where you're going to do that. If you want to insert a shape, we're going to kind of do some of these as we go through too, as we kind of build a slide together. But shapes here, just your standard shapes. If you're familiar with Microsoft tools like PowerPoint and Word, this is going to be very intuitive for you. You're going to kind of be familiar with these. But just in case somebody's not, I'll quickly go through them. So you have the line, the different lines that you can create, the coloring. If I want to fill the text box that I have here, I can fill it with any color I'd like, or give it a colored outline that's yellow and make that a thicker line and whatnot. The little yellow there, you can see it got a little thicker. Of course, I chose yellow. It wasn't a great color for me to choose for you to see very well, but you get the idea. And then background, I'm going to come back to this because we're going to talk about what that would be, how you're going to use that. And then layout, I wouldn't worry about that. That's kind of, if you wanted those pre-made text boxes for you, you could choose those there. This one has like 2 columns with a little text box along the top, whatnot. Theme, we already talked about that. If you wanted to get those themes back, you click on that. And transitions are if you were doing something, if you were creating a Google Slides presentation to share with your students and you wanted to do those like where the slides fade into each other, or you know, zoom in and zoom out. You probably won't do too much with that because this is going to be a student tool. You can obviously use this if you want to blow up something onto the smartboard, you could, but essentially tonight I'm going to be talking about how you're using Google Slides as a student tool. So you're not going to really have to worry about that too much. So I'm not going to spend too much time on that. If it's a huge interest, we can do a whole nother workshop on that if we want to get into the nitty and gritty. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and click that out. And I'm going to get rid of my themes here too. Okay, so that's kind of your toolbar. If you click on a text box, you get your font choices, your size choices, your bold, italic, underline, and your text color, all that good stuff, just like you would in any other creating software that you might use for student resources. Okay, so that's kind of the layout of the toolbar. I kind of skipped over the background because we're going to look at that now. So a couple things you can do here. If you already have a resource, let's say you made it in PowerPoint or Publisher, if you use Publisher or Word, you can actually save each of those slides in your PowerPoint or your PowerPoint or your Word document or Publisher document. You can actually save those slides as individual images. And I like to create all of my my Google Slides presentations in PowerPoint first, because then I can use my own fonts, my own illustrations, and then I can save it as a flat image so students can't rearrange it or delete anything, because I'm going to insert it as a background, which I'll show you in a second, so that students don't slide that image around don't slide the image around the slide at all. So I have a couple examples for you that I'm going to show you. If I want to create a background, actually it might be helpful first if I show you one of the ways that I've used it. So this is my nonfiction text features Link and Think. Many of you have seen or maybe have even used my Link and Think digital learning guides in the classroom. I first did them only where it was available as a PDF, and then I had lots of requests to convert them over into Google Slides because you're using them in Google Classroom, which is great. So I finally have done that. So this is what the Google or the nonfiction text features Link and Think looks like. I'm going to show it to you from the student's perspective so you can kind of get an idea of how you might use this. So if I go up here to presentation mode and I click on presenter view, I'm hoping you see that. Perfect. No, I don't think you see it because I don't know if you can see it in presentation mode because of the way my computer is set up. But I do think you see it here in the PDF form, maybe? Fingers crossed? Okay. I'm hoping. Yeah, I'm seeing that you're seeing it. Okay, so this is the nonfiction text features Link and Think. So essentially a student would pull this up in presentation mode. This is an example where they're not typing in it. They're just kind of using it as an informational tool rather as a tool that they would record something in. And it says I'm interrupted again. It interrupted me for a second and looks like I'm back on, so I'm going to keep going. All right, so I've set it up with a ton of links. We're going to talk about that in a second. But if a student is working through this in Google Slides, they would click on Next. They can learn about the different text features. And I don't know if I mentioned this already. This is going to be a free resource that you can download. I'll share the link with you at the end of our time together. And you can use this in your classroom, kind of play around with it, see how it works in your classroom, and then maybe be inspired to make some of your own. So if they're learning about types of charts, text features that are types of charts, they would click on that, and it takes them to another slide within the Google Slides presentation. They want to go back, they click on the book. Again, this is free. You can play around with this and explore it on your own. I'm going to go quickly through it now, but you get the idea of how I have on the slide, I have my own text, my own images, and the students can't mess around with it. So let me click out of this. Let me go back to our test presentation. Make sure you're back there with me. Okay, good. So if I've already created those slides that you saw with the different images and the pictures on it, if I've already created that, oh, good. I'm glad you're using it next week, Amber. Awesome. The nonfiction text features. Good. Amber said she's using this next week. That's why I said that. So that's awesome. And you can use it next week too. You can use it tomorrow if you want because it's just easy to download and ready to go. So if I wanted to create I created that whole Link and Think inside of PowerPoint first to add my own fonts. And then when you save it as an image, it saves your fonts. If you tried to transfer it over, Google Slides does not have all of the font options that you might use on your computer. It just has the very basics. So I'm going to click on the slide that I'm here, and if I right click, I can change background, and I have some images, some power slides from PowerPoints that I've saved as images, and I'm going to go ahead and choose, and I think I saved them on my desktop here. Let me click here. Okay, so this image right here is from the one and only Ivan workbook that students use. So I don't want students to be able to change or move this around. So if I insert the image as a background, if I click on this, it doesn't move it, which is what we want. Because once students get in there, they're going to move things all around and it'll be a hot mess. So I suggest create it in PowerPoint first, exactly how you want it to look. Then when you go to save as, you can save it as a PNG image file, and it'll save each slide within your PowerPoint presentation as a separate image, and then you can insert those separate images as the background of your Google slide. I hope that makes sense. If it does not, let me know, and maybe I can put together a quick little video that I can put in the comments to kind of explain that. Unfortunately, I can't pull that up on my computer right now because that's not set up to show that window. So hopefully that makes sense. If not, let me know. I'd be happy to do a quick little video tutorial and link to it. Okay, so once I've inserted my image into Google Slides, now the students will be able to type onto this as if they would write on it if you were to print this out. Again, this is one of the worksheets that the students complete in my The One and Only Ivan novel study. So right now it's not set up for students to type into it. So I've inserted my background and now I want to insert some text boxes. And I highly, highly, highly suggest that you add in the text boxes ahead of time. And you can do, once you create your Google Slides presentation, you can share it out to all of your students or assign to them inside of Google Classroom. We're not going to cover that part tonight. Hopefully, if you're interested in this, you maybe already have knowledge of how to do that. That's for another night. But once you've created it, you're going to share this whole thing, and we'll talk about it in a second. Up here, you'll share the link so that each student will have their own copy, so you don't have to worry about students typing over each other's answers. So what I always do is I go up here and I add a text box, and I just draw it where I want my students to be able to type. And I'm going to go ahead and put it in there. Right now, it's a white background, but I am going to make it a slightly gray background so that students very clearly see that it is a text box that they're going to type into. So if you just give it the tiniest shade of gray, you may not be able to see it right from your computer, from where you're looking, but it makes it just hinted enough. I'll do it a little bit darker so you can see it on your screen a little better for students to see. And then I don't stop there. I always write in add text right in the box so that they know all they have to do is highlight that text and then just type over it when they go to write in their answers. So I always do add text. Sometimes I do it in red just so it really stands out so that they know that they're typing. If I go over here and change the color so that they know they're typing wherever there's a red text, it's expected that they're going to type in their own answers. So I would go ahead and do that, and you can even, if you click on Control and drag it, you can copy it, or you can right click and press copy and paste it. So you can easily just duplicate that and make all of the text boxes ready to go for that page. And then you might have to rearrange, like this one covers the image a little bit, and you can just play around with that. So go ahead and add in all your text boxes before you give it to your students so that it's easy for them to go ahead and type in their own answers. And again, this is just one way that you can use Google Slides. If you were to, say, replace a paper printed out worksheet and you're going to use it on Google Slides instead, this is how you would do it. You would create it in PowerPoint, save that slide as an image, and then insert it into the background. All right, just checking my notes here, grab a drink of water, and make sure we are good to go. All right, so another thing that you can have students do, I do have, let me see if I have, I'm gonna insert another background, and I'm gonna go to change background, choose, and anywhere you have it saved on your computer. Yes, okay, perfect. It did save one. So this is another one of the worksheets from The One and Only Ivan. And in case you're wondering, in my units, I provide it in both ways because I know that some teachers aren't there yet, or maybe they're not interested in using Google Slides. So I provide my the student activities in both Google Slides and just your standard traditional paper printed out and give it to your students. So I know that teachers are at different spots in their school, so I want to make sure that's available for you. I've only converted over, I think, 4 of my units now to be Google Classroom compatible, but the rest are coming slowly but surely. It takes a lot to convert it all over. And then once I do that, something new is going to come up, and I'm going to have to change it for that. So I guess job security, right? All right, so I'm going to press done. So now on this particular page, excuse me, it asks if this were to be printed out for students to use, they would actually draw in. This is students are drawing pictures and images that represent Ivan's visions for the future. If you don't know the story, that doesn't make sense. But if they were to be getting this, if they were not using Google Classroom, they would be drawing in those little picture boxes that you see there. But since it's on Google Classroom, they don't have the ability to do that. But they do have the ability to add images. So instead of drawing like a picture of a jungle, which is what a student might draw if they were filling this out, they can look for a picture of a jungle. So what they would do is they would go up to insert, they would click on image, and then search the web. If they already had a picture on the computer, that's great too. But for the most part, you're probably not going to have pre-selected images for the students to use. So you would just go ahead and type in jungle. And this is just going to bring up Google images that are available for them to use. Now, because you're using this in your own private classroom, you don't really have to worry about copyright issues. Again, if you were like me and you were creating resources for other teachers, you would have to worry about copyright issues. But because you're using this in the privacy of your own classroom, you don't have to worry about that. So you can pick whatever picture looks good. Students click on it. Takes a second for it to load, and it's going to load pretty big, so you're going to have to teach them that they need to resize it and turn it, and they can do that simply by grabbing one of the corners, bringing it up, and they can rotate it just slightly, and they would fit it into one of their picture boxes. And depending on how you have your page set up, they might have to do something slightly different, but that's how it works on this page. They find the picture that they like, they insert it in, and it's as if they were, drawing it themselves. Thanks, Mary Beth. She says, you thought of everything. Love this. I'm learning. I'm trying to get there. Actually, interesting enough, there's a class that you can take online to become Google Classroom certified, and so that's something that I've started doing. I kind of got away from it over the holidays. I want to get back to it so that I really have my information to share with you guys about using Google Slides and Google Classroom in your classroom. So that's how you would insert an image. All right. I want to show you one other thing before I show you some examples of how you can use Google Slides in your classroom. Ideally, for the most part, you're going to create things ahead of time for students so that they can, add their text boxes in. Like you've already created the slide, you already have all the text in there, the text boxes are added, and they can go back and add their answers. So that's kind of like the ideal thing. But if for some reason they were adding their own video, if they're creating their own presentation to share, which is a really great thing. Once your students get to really used to using Google Slides in their classroom, they can create their own presentations, which is awesome. But if they wanted to add a video, they can do it right through. They can actually access YouTube videos directly from Google Slides. They don't have to go and copy any URL and paste it in or anything like that. So let me just go ahead and add another image here. And this is helpful too, if you were creating something that you wanted your students to view, if you wanted to include a video for them to look at while they're learning, this is how you would do it as well. So I have a blank slide here. I'm going to go into Insert, and I'm going to go to Video. And you can, if you already know the URL for that YouTube video, if you were searching for it, you could just copy and paste it in here and it would bring it up for you, and you can insert the actual video right into the slide. But let's say you don't, you're going to search right through here and I don't know what's going to come up, so we're going to find out together. I'm going to type in animal life cycles because I have a Lincoln Think Digital Learning Guide all on animal life cycles, and I have some YouTube videos embedded right into the Google Slides that the students can check out. So I'm going to click on search. We'll see what comes up. And Bill Nye the Science Guy, Life Cycle of a Frog. Let's go ahead and choose that one. So I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to click Select. And then I can size it to take up the whole screen, kind of center it there. And then one quick tip, so that if you were making this for your students and you wanted that video up and ready to go as soon as they get into the Google slide, and I'll show you an example of that in a second, you can go over here to Format. I think it's Format. Is it Format? Oh, shoot, I'm going to forget where it was. File. I'm looking for video. Oh, shoot. Give me a quick second because I know it was in here. I think it was in format and I feel like it's cut off here. Okay, whoops. Sorry, guys. I'm going to have to add that in for you. There is a way that you can queue it up. Shoot. 1 second. I want to find this for you. I thought it was under video formatting. Okay, I'm going to have to find that for you later because I don't want to waste our time. And when I do, I'll create a little video for you and I'll put it in the bottom. Oh, right here. See, Google Slides changes it up for us. They've changed the toolbar a little bit since I've used this last. Okay, so it's right here for you now. Before it was under format. So here it's in video, and you can have it automatically play when a student gets that slide so that they don't have to press play or anything. You can even, yeah, I found it. Thanks, Amber. She says, I saw video options. I found it too. It just took me about 10 minutes to do so. So if there's just this little snippet that you want your students to watch of that video, because sometimes you find this really great video, but it's like 20 minutes long, and you don't want your students to have to watch the whole thing to get just one little snippet of it, one little nugget of information, you can actually have the video start at a specific time. So if you're watching it and you find the timestamp of when it starts and then where you want it to watch too. So if you only want to watch 30 seconds of it, you would put that 30 seconds in. So let's say it starts at the 40-second mark and you want them to watch it into the 2-minute mark. It will only play it for that time frame. So it's really easy. That way your students don't waste time watching things that maybe aren't applicable to what you're trying to teach them. So that's really cool. And then again, if you want it to autoplay as soon as they get on that slide, make sure you mark that box that says auto play when presenting, and we'll talk about the different ways that students are going to view the Google Slides in just a second, but I wanted to make sure you are aware that if you want them to be able to start viewing it right away, you got to have that mark checked, and it's not checked by default. You actually have to manually go in and click default on every video that you might add into a Google Slide. All right, so that's a really cool feature that you can use. All right, just before we move on, I want to make sure I covered all my bases. Okay, so let's say if your students are going to be typing into it, for example, like I have here on the one and only Ivan student activity packet, they're going to view it just as you see here. They're going to open it up in Google Slides. They're going to have this section over here where they have kind of the thumbnail of all of the slides that are in their worksheet or in their activity packet, and then they'll have the one that they're viewing in the middle there, just like you're used to seeing on, say, PowerPoint or Publisher or any of those types of software programs. But if you're having it, like in the case of my Lincoln Think Digital Learning Guides, and I'll show you in a second. I know I keep saying I'll show it to you in a second, but we're going to get to the good stuff in a minute. If you want them to be able to view it, because right now, this video isn't going to automatically play until I have it in presentation mode. And to do that, you go over to here where it says present, and you can present from the beginning. And I'm afraid to click on it right now because I don't think it's going to show on your computer. But if you present it at the beginning, it'll take up the whole screen, just like a PowerPoint presentation would. And you're going to see it. The students will be able to see it in the full screen mode, and then all of those things that you've activated in the Google Slides presentation will start working. It'll start automatically right where you have it to set. And one other thing I just thought of right now. One of the things that I love about Google Slides is that you can actually link one slide to another by having students click somewhere on that slide. Let me show you what I mean. Let me go ahead and pull up that free nonfiction. I already pulled up. Okay. I'm going to try it. Is that showing up for you guys? Yes, okay. So no, you remember how when I was clicking through before, when I clicked on this little book, it brought it back to this slide. When I click on this box over here, it brought it to this slide. So I'm having the students bounce all around the slides. You can do that very easily by embedding a link on a certain text box, a certain image, or whatever. So let me show you how that works. Let me go back into our testing. Let's say I want, when the student clicks on this gorilla, on Ivan. By the way, if you haven't read that book, it's an awesome, awesome book. When a student clicks on Ivan, when it's in presentation mode, so it has to be in presentation mode by going over here and clicking view from, or present from beginning. If they click on that, I want it to automatically go to that video. Obviously, these two things have nothing to do with each other, but let's say this was my Life Cycles Lincoln thing, and they click on the picture of the frog, and it links them to the life cycle of the frog right inside the Google site. So they don't have to go to any outside websites. It's all right there for them. So let's say I want to do that. So I'm going to create I'm going to go over here to the image tool. I'm going to click on shape. I'm just going to give a square, and I'm going to cover over Ivan. It's going to put a color into it, but that's okay. What you're going to do, whoops, I moved it there. You're going to have that box positioned over where the students are going to click. And then if you just go up here to color, I'm going to make it transparent so that they can see the image. And then I'm even going to make the line transparent so that when they're looking at it like this, you don't see the box over there, but it's there. If I click on it, it's just transparent. So that's really important. You need to get both the color inside the shape transparent as well as the outline as transparent as well. So to link that, so remember I want to link this from slide 1 to slide 3 so that when students are in presentation mode, it takes them right to slide 3. So I'm going to right click on this. You see this link option down here below, and then it says slides in this presentation, and I can click on, I can scroll down here, and sometimes you have to move it up in order for it to all show, and then you got to move it back down again. So slide 3, and I'm going to press apply, and then I'm going to move it back over here so it's correct. And then watch this, when I'm in presentation mode, and fingers crossed it shows up correctly for you. I don't think it's going to, actually. Shoot. When it's in presentation mode, once they click on Ivan, it would bring them to slide 3. Sorry, I don't have it set up to show outside windows just yet. So I don't want to mess around with that and waste your time. Okay, so that's how you would link up. You could link to outside. If let's say you want them to go to a website, it's not a video, and that you couldn't link to right into Google Slides. You can, oh, I'm just seeing a little replay. I think you did see that. Sorry. Love my technology, right? If you did want to link it to an outside website, you could certainly do that. So let's just go ahead and remove that. And let's say I want to link to a website, you would just say where it says paste the link, you would just paste it right there. When students clicked on that, it would open up a new tab in what internet browser they're in, and it would show them whatever link that was. So that's how you link within. So let me go ahead. Oh, sorry, one more thing. I'm looking at my notes here. I don't want to skip any. So when you created your Google Slides that you're ready to share with your students, you have to share, you have to make this document shareable, because right now it's only, it's like a private link that would only work for you when you're signed into your Google account. So to share it, you're going to go up to the share option over here in the corner, and right now it's set. You can choose specific people you want to share it with, but if you want to make it accessible to anybody that has the link, you're going to go right here where it says advanced. Right now it's set to private only you can access. That's not going to work if you're using this with your students. So you're going to go ahead and click on change, and you're going to click on anyone with the link and then save it there. Okay? And you're going to go ahead and copy that. Now that's not the last part, because right now, as that link is, if you share that link with somebody else, they can type into it, but you've also shared that link with somebody, say student number 2, you got student number 1, student number 2. If they have the same link, this is a live document, and that means that as somebody types into it, other people can see it. If they have that same link open, they'll see the changes that that student is making. So you want to make sure that you give each student their own copy so that they aren't messing around with what each person is putting in. So go ahead and copy that link. So I'm going to go ahead and copy it. And I'm going to click out of here. I'm going to click done. And then I'm going to go into a new tab. And this is really, really important. So you get your new tab open. I'm going to make sure that you're good with me there. Okay. Kind of keep toggling back and forth between all my tabs. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and paste that link. So I want you to focus on a couple things. It's a really long link. That's a problem. Or that's not a problem. You don't have to worry about that. But no, see right here where it says /edit and then there's this little tag at the end. You want to change that last tag after that last / to copy. Okay? And I think there is a way, because I never actually used Google Classroom, I think there might be a way where you can, within Google Classroom, click a button that says make a copy for each student. Don't quote me on that. I need to look into that more. But if there's not, this is how you would make a copy to then share with each student. And maybe if somebody knows, please put that in the comments. If you are already using Google Classroom in your classroom with your students, if there's a way within Google Classroom, like in your dashboard as the Google Classroom teacher, to just make each student its own copy and send it off to their Google Classroom accounts. Let me know. I'll look into it, but if you know it, please put it in the comments. So anyways, I took off that edit and then that last little tag, and I put in the word copy. And what's going to happen, if I press enter, it'll say, would you like to make a copy of test presentation, which is the one we're working on, and you click on make a copy, and then that's your own copy to work on. You won't interfere with anybody else's information that they're writing down. So that's how you make a copy. And again, there may be a way to do that directly inside of Google Classroom. I've got to figure that out. Laura Brown Frost says, yes, you can. If it is a slideshow, then they can make their own copy. It is in the pull down option. Okay, awesome. So then you can bypass that whole last thing. But if for some reason, if you are not using Google Classroom as a platform for your students, you can still use Google Slides in your classroom. And this would be how you do it. You just have students bring up, they would still need a Google account and email. But if you're not using, fully utilizing the whole Google Classroom platform, you would just simply have them open. And if you just popped on recently, I talked about in the back, or in the beginning, I talked about how you find Google Slides inside of Google Drive. So if you're not using Google Classroom, please don't write this off. You can totally use this in your classroom, doing with what I just showed you. Share a copy. You can share that link with another student. If you want to make a short link, now I'm getting off topic, but I want to make sure you have this information. That link is super, super, super long. You can copy it. And then there's a free tool called Bitly. Let me pull it up for you. You don't have to pay for this. It's free. I have an account, but I don't even think you need an account in order to make it free or make a short link. But if you click on create a bit link and you paste that super long link in, it'll create a short link for you. And you can give that link to your students to open up, so they're not having to type in a whole long thing, because they would never get it right, right? You would never get it right. So that's just a little side note that you can use. But back to our original thing here. So you've got your link, you've shared it, and you're good to go. So let me show you a couple ways that you can start using Google Slides with your students. I showed you how to kind of create them by inserting your own text boxes, inserting your own images and videos. But now let's look at some ways that this plays out in real life. So let me go over to my my drive here. And next week, we're going to talk about how to organize your teacher life, all your files inside of Google Drive. I'm a big Google fan, in case you have not figured that out yet. But I love Google stuff, 100%. So tune in next week for that. But I have all of my the things that I'm using for our Facebook Live tonight all organized in a Google folder inside of Google Drive. Makes it really easy for me to access it for you guys. So I've already showed you my nonfiction link and think. So if you want to teach something that is potentially boring to your students, like text features, that's not a very fun topic, put it inside a Google Slide, make it interactive, excuse me, and they can click around and learn about all the different things. Again, if you just are popping on, this is a free resource that I'm going to give you the link for, so you can have that for you to use in your classroom. And it's just a nice way to teach, introduce text features to your students. I created in my Explorer unit, I created a drag copy, a cause and effect activity. Let me show you what that looks like. So let me give you a little background about how I created this. This right here, this like little scroll with all this information on it is a image that I created on a PowerPoint that I inserted into the background of a Google slide. And then these boxes right here, I also created in PowerPoint, but then I saved just that picture as an image and I inserted it in. A little bit more of an advanced technique, but I wanted to share that with you. So as you're growing with this resource and you're learning how to use it, you can see some of the excuse me, possible activities that you can use. So basically in this activity, what students do is they read the cause over here and then they drag the appropriate effect onto the correct spot. All right, so they would read that and drag it over. There's 4 pages here. This they are not going to view in presentation mode because once it's in presentation mode, they can't do any dragging of anything, but they can if it's how you see it here, kind of, I call it editing mode. I don't know if there's a technical term for it or not, but they can drag over and put it in the right spot. These aren't necessarily correct. I'm just showing you what it would look like. There's 4 options, but only 2 of them are going to be used. So they have to know which 2 are the appropriate ones. Then they go to the next slide and so on. So that's one way that I've used it. Another way, if you really want to go paperless, if you want to make your classroom completely paperless, you can insert even articles that your students are reading. Again, I created it in PowerPoint, or I created it in PowerPoint. What you see here, all the images, the text, then I saved each slide as an image and I inserted it as a background into a Google slide. This you see is now portrait mode. You can do any shape that you want, any dimensions rather that you want. This does have a little text box in here that as they read the article, they respond to it. This is for my Colonial America unit. So you could just have just an article that they read so that you don't have to print it out and give to your students, or you can have them have some like interaction that they do with the article like you see here. Again, they're not going to view this in presentation mode. They'll view this as you see it. I have my Lincoln Think digital learning guides, which is my big thing as of late. I've been creating these like a mad woman. This they would view in presentation mode. So you would set this up in Google Slides or in PowerPoint first, all of the images, all the text how you want it, and then you insert the image, each slide as an image onto a Google slide, and then you can add those clickable links like we showed here. So for example, see this transparent box around here? I've already set that up to link to the next slide. So in full mode, it looks like this. Are you seeing that? Let's check. I think you can see that. Perfect. Okay. I think I was right the first time. So this is, they click here to learn about pulleys. If they click on this link right here, it's going to open up a video right inside. It automatically plays for them. We don't want to do that because it'll be nice and loud. So that is how that works. Did I freeze again? It keeps showing me that I'm freezing, but I don't think I did. How annoying. Okay, I think I'm still live. I'm going to go with it. Okay, so that's a Lincoln Think. Same thing as the text features as a Lincoln Think. I do my entire, for the one and only Ivan novel unit that I just did, I have the paper copy of all the student activities, sheets that they're going to use, but then I also have it in Google Slides, so they would view it like this. Wait for it to load here. That one I showed you how we built it together. All of my text boxes are already added in. And what I like about Google Slides as opposed to printing it out is you can do Google Slides in color because you probably can't print out your student worksheets in color unless you have a fabulous school that provides you with color printer. But this way you can create it in PowerPoint in color and then save it as an image and insert it into the background of a Google slide. And you insert all of your text boxes ahead of time, so it's really easy for students to interact with it. They can add images and whatnot. So this is their workbook that goes along with this with the novel unit. And then I think that was, yeah, those are my different examples. So there really is so many ways, and this is just like a little snippet of things that you can use Google Slides for. I am really just getting my own feet wet in the whole platform, but I learned really quickly. One of the biggest mistakes that I made early on was I was inserting the image instead of inserting it as a background, I was inserting it as an image, like this whole thing right here. But then it was a nightmare because students could move it around, and we don't want them to be able to do that. So insert any of your worksheet, insert it as a background, and then students can't move it around. They can move the text boxes, so you do have to kind of do a little training on how to move things around, or what not to move rather, when they're using Google Slides. So that is, let me go back over to, we have been going for almost an hour tonight. A lot of you have stuck with me, which is awesome. So I'm going to go back over here. If you didn't jump in at the beginning, please go back and rewatch. There's a ton of great stuff that we covered. So I want you to grab that freebie that I was telling you about, the nonfiction text features link and think. If you haven't used any of my link and things before, it's a great way to get students really interacting with the content that they're learning. Like I said, you can take the most boring information and turn it into really engaging, turn it into an engaging activity for your students. So they're learning boring content, but they're doing it in a really engaging way. So I want you to grab that. Go ahead and type in to your browser bit.ly/cn-link think free. And please type it in as exactly how you see it there, with the capitals and the dash where you see it. Otherwise, it will not work. So just go ahead and do that. It'll be emailed right to you, and you can use this tomorrow in your classroom. It does come with a little flip book that students fill out while they're looking at this. Most of my, actually all of my link and things come with a flip book that students can complete. So they're learning it, they're writing it down, they're coloring pictures and things like that. And then they have a nice little book at the end to take with them so they can review all the information that they learned. So try this one out, see if it might work in your classroom, and then try some of the other things that we talked about with using Google Slides in your classroom, and kind of incorporating that a little bit as technology in the classroom. It's a really great place to start if you're just getting started with Google Classroom with your students. And again, if you found this useful, please share it. Please share it with your teacher friends. Email them the link, send them the link of this video so that they can get on board with our Workshop Wednesdays. We do just have one more for this series. We'll come back at it again. Pam asks, where do you type this? Just go to your internet, just go into your Google browser or your internet browser and type that link in, and it'll bring up a form for you to fill out and get it for free. So hopefully that makes sense. Just go to any, like for example, here I'll just show you. I'm going to open up a new tab. If I type in bit.ly/cn-link think free, it'll bring this up. Just type in your name and your email, and I'll send it right to you, and it'll be there for you in your inbox. So that's how you get that. Let me go back here. Oops, sorry, I wasn't on the right screen. Sorry, you type in it up here, bit.ly, this link right here, and it brings up this form. Sorry, I wasn't on the right screen there for a second. Okay, let me go back here. Too many things to transition. Okay, so please share this out. We have one more week for our Workshop Wednesday. Next week, I already said that we were going to talk about how to use Google Drive to organize your teacher files. So any lesson plans and activity sheets that you print out for your students, you can organize it all in Google Drive, which is awesome, especially if you share your resources with another teacher. You can all have the link to the same account, and you can get whatever you need from one spot. We'll talk about that next week, and that'll round out our Workshop Wednesdays for this month. And then if you have a topic or something that you would like to explore together during this Workshop Wednesday time, please let me know. I would love to kind of develop these workshops. I really like doing this each week with you. So if you've got a topic that you'd like to explore more, let me know, and we will, if it's something I know about, I will share information about it. So please share it. And I think that's the end of our show for tonight. So have a wonderful, I'll leave that link up there so you can see it. Make sure you get it one last time. I'll type it into the comment or to the description above this as well. But please get that, use it in your classrooms, and let me know how it works for you guys. Thank you so, so much for joining me tonight. I will be here again next week at 8 p.m. on Wednesdays. Today, Wednesday, yes. Workshop Wednesdays. I'll be here, and hopefully you will join me. Bring a friend or 2 or 10, and we will learn all about Google Drive for organizing your files. Check back some of the other videos that we've done in the previous weeks on the video tab of my Facebook page and get up to date on what we've already been talking about. So thanks again. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and I will see you next week. Take care.